Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars. Hello there. This is Dave, and you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? The show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars, from industry insiders to indie artists, from mega collectors to obsessive mythologists, to find out how Star Wars impacted their life. Here's the thing, there's a lot of ways to look at Star Wars, and it's all from a certain point of view. And that point of view is yours. And let's face it, we all love what we all love about Star Wars, and I believe that listening to someone talk passionately about what they love can open your own mind to new points of views. Also, it's just fun to talk Star Wars. So I want to change the conversation from what is right or wrong about Star Wars to what does Star Wars mean to you? Today it's episode 18 and my conversation with author Kelly Knox. Now, it was a delight to talk to her. She's as funny, clever, and vibrant as her Twitter feed. She's written the Star Wars books Be More Obi-Wan and Star Wars Every Day. And coming out on August 1st are her Star Wars conversation cards. You can find all her info and links in the podcast notes. And just for context, this conversation was recorded in late May. But first, it's Thursday, June 22nd, and there's 62 days until the premiere of Ahsoka. That means if you want to do a Rebels rewatch of all 75 episodes, you have to watch about 1.2 episodes a day, or about 8.5 episodes a week to watch them all. That's easy! I've watched the entire series at least twice, and I'm seriously considering another one before Ahsoka. Are you doing a Rebels rewatch this summer? How are you going to count down to the premiere of Ahsoka? And how would you get someone who likes Star Wars but doesn't watch the cartoons to watch Rebels? Let me know and get in on the conversation on Twitter or Instagram at Star Wars Mean to You. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. If you don't want to miss guests like this, then hit the subscribe button. And if you're liking the show, please give it a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to it. Now, let's find out what does Star Wars mean to Kelly Knox. Today, my guest has been all over the galaxy. She has been the community manager for the MMORPG Star Wars Galaxies. She is an entertainment writer for a variety of official websites including Star Wars, Star Trek, DC Comics, Marvel, and Crunchyroll. She is also an author who wrote Marvel Monsters, Marvel Studios' Be More Spider-Man, and Star Wars Be More Obi-Wan, as well as the co-author of Star Wars Every Day. But truly what caught my attention and what I may be most impressed by are the humorous and vast amounts of Star Wars puns/jokes she brings to Star Wars Twitter every day. Let's give a warm hello there to Kelly Knox.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Kelly. Tell me, are you ready to tell the world what does Star Wars mean to you?
Sure. It sounds like fun.
Awesome. So I start with a thing called 5 with the Force. This is just to get like a kind of baseline of your fandom. And it's just 5 kind of rapid fire questions. So the first one is, which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
A New Hope is my go-to favorite.
Oh, the original.
The original. That's just left over
OTOG.
from being a kid. I think that's the one I always had, on the tape because we had a VCR, and that's the one that we always put on.
Who is your favorite major character?
Darth Vader. It used to be, it used to be Luke, of course, but the more stories that come out with Anakin and Darth Vader, the more I just really like him.
Now, is that Anakin by proxy as well? Because he is kind of the same person. Like, do you like Darth Vader really because of the Anakin storyline that leads up to Darth Vader?
I think so, because I think what I really enjoy is when those little peaks of Anakin come through, or at least your brain wants to interpret them as that. So yeah, I think that is kind of, yeah. And then of course, like I said, Luke, and then Obi-Wan he's coming up there in the ranks thanks to Be More Obi-Wan and in the Obi-Wan
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. I'm sure you did a lot of studying of Obi-Wan.
I did. Yeah, I got to watch a lot of old Clone Wars episodes and
Yeah.
the prequels. So yeah.
The third question, what is your favorite line to quote?
Um, it's also in Be More Obi-Wan, and it's the who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him. I don't know why
Yes.
that line is always stuck with me. I've joked before that like tried to date a guy in the past and things weren't working out. I would say, Kelly, who's the more foolish? And so I think that line is just always kind of stuck with me.
It's good wisdom.
It is, yeah. I put it in the book with the point of view that you need to ask yourself exactly that. Who are you putting all your beliefs in, or putting all your,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's a good line. That's why it sticks with me, I think.
Can you do any Star Wars impressions or impersonations?
When I was little, I tried to work really hard on my Emperor Palpatine. And I still do it once in a while. I'm not going to do it for you, but his "So Be It" Jedi in Return of the Jedi was like my favorite one to try to say, because I can't do it because I always make that face that he makes, a little frowny face, and it's too embarrassing. But but yeah, I always tried to do that line, but otherwise I can't really do one. I've been asked to do a Wookiee roar before, and I absolutely cannot do that. So it's fun to try, but not something I can do.
Besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This could be a TV show, comic book, a novel, a game, really anything out there.
Let's see, I just finished Jedi Survivor, so that's fresh on my mind. My favorite novel is Star Wars Brotherhood by Mike Chen, and that's purely selfish because there's a character named after me in that novel.
That's amazing.
So it will always, thanks to Mike, that will always be my favorite Star Wars book.
Now, is that character literally named Kelly Knox, or does it have like a Star Warsian twist?
Star Wars twist. It's Noxie Kell, and she works in the Jedi Archives.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was so nice to do it.
In a way, you are a Jedi librarian.
Yes, that's what he told me. So
okay, so that's 5 with the Force. Moving on now, one of the things, and I mentioned this, was the Star Wars puns. I just want to kind of address this up top. Are the jokes now? Do you come up with those jokes on your own? Do they kind of hit you out of the blue? What is your process for that? Do you have like a goal sheet? Like, I need 5 jokes this week.
I used to back when I started, because I was trying to do it daily in 2020. That's when I started during lockdown, and I was trying really hard to, improve the energy on Twitter. So I made it like a personal goal to do a joke a day. And I think I kept that up for like a year and a half. So, but now it's just whenever something actually just kind of comes to me. Yeah. Sometimes I'll see like a lot of times it's like a classic pun that I can just put like a Star Wars twist on.
Yep.
Rarely it'll be something out of the blue, like I'll be doing like mowing the yard or something, and I'll think of something. But it's usually, whatever's happening in the media or the fandom at the time, like Obi-Wan episode or something like that. So it's pretty random.
Yeah. It's as a lover of puns, I really enjoy them. So thank you for brightening up Twitter a little bit with those, because they're a lot of fun to come through. I don't remember the one I saw that made me go, "Oh, I'm following this account," but I remember the answer was Nico Time, because it was a character from
yes, I forgot about that one. Mando.
Mandalorian, one of the pirates, and he was the guy who escapes, and he was a Nico. Is that how you say that? He was a Nico? Because that's the alien type he was, right?
Yes. Yep.
And
yeah. That was one of the ones that was just randomly came to me.
The structure of that one had to be random, like feels kind of random, because it's so
specific. Yeah.
Yeah, so specific. Yeah, it's so perfect. And I guess that's what the joy of puns. I think I need to start a new show called "What Do Puns Mean to You?" And I'll just interview puns. The other one that I really, really like, I found it and I copied it down because I know who I am and how my brain works. Did you know Sith don't have midichlorians? They have amino acids. Come on. They have amino acids. It's just, I think also Twitter is perfect for puns because it's a visual form a lot of the times
Yes.
as opposed to an
Yes.
auditorial form.
I like the ones I
Oh,
can make without like help from my image because I feel like those are actually like a really good pun. The ones that I have to post with an
yes.
image, I'm like, maybe too specific.
Yes. I mean, the images are always nice because it's just like, oh, that's that alien. Okay,
Yes,
I
that's
get
what
it.
I try to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, take me back to, if you remember it, do you remember the first time you saw Star Wars, how you were introduced to Star Wars?
I sort of. I do remember the first one I saw in the theater, and that was Return of the Jedi. And I remember it because I feel like I tell the story all the time, but I just love it so much because the film strip broke right when the Ewok steals the speeder bike. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
Is it was film strip? And so like everybody in the audience just started yelling at the screen because like it snaps, so you can't keep watching
Yes.
the movie. I have no idea if we ever saw the end of Return of the Jedi or if they fixed it, but I just remember it breaking. So that's one of my earliest, if not the earliest Star Wars memory that I have. And then, like I said earlier, we watched VHS tapes of like A New Hope and Empire over and over. So yeah, I'm an original trilogy kid.
Wow. Did your whole family watch it together? Was it something that everyone was involved in?
I want to say it was my dad. I remember my dad at the movie, and his handwriting was the one on the VHS tapes. But I don't think my mom disliked it. But I think it was my dad just kind of thought they were, and still he's just like, yeah, it's fine, it's cool. Like he
Yeah.
just thought it was neat, and that was it. And then and then we took off with it, of course. So
That's amazing. Now, it sounded like you were kind of always a Star Wars fan, if your memory goes back to seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater and the film strip breaking. What were some of the ways that you interacted with Star Wars on a daily basis when you were a kid?
so gosh, this can make me sound so old, but back then there were no there was no way to take the movie with you, right? You couldn't
Yeah.
watch it on your phone. All you had was your TV and VCR. And so I took the soundtrack with me on like a Discman or a Walkman all the time. And so that was sort of my main, I guess, relationship with Star Wars was the music. If I was having a bad day, I would take it like in our closet and just put on my headphones and listen to it because it was the only way to watch it, right? If I wanted privacy, watch it, quote unquote,
Yeah.
in my memory. And it was always A New Hope, which is why I think that's my favorite one. But the same thing with the like car trips. I remember just curling up in the car and listening to the soundtrack because that was the best we could do to watch it over and over again. So that's a lot of
Yeah.
my memories as a kid is listening to it as much as watching it.
That's pretty impressive. That's really amazing how you took the soundtrack as a way of reliving the actual movie itself. Now, as a storyteller, was Star Wars part of your inspiration to go into writing, to become an author?
I don't think I even dared to dream of such a thing. If that makes sense. I was
Yeah.
I was a big reader, like most kids in the 80s, I think were. And so I liked writing and I loved reading and books, but I don't think when I was growing up, there weren't even books until the Thrawn trilogy came out with Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I mean, just the idea there were just a couple books, I think Splinter of the Mind's Eye and some of the Lando books and whatnot. So I don't think that even like crossed my mind, the possibility of writing something related to Star Wars. But I think the reason why we all love it so much, and me in particular, is because they are such good stories. So maybe
Yes.
indirectly influenced, but like I said, never thought I would work on a Star Wars game, much less write books or write for the website. I mean, well, obviously not a website because it didn't exist, but work
Yeah,
officially
no.
with Star Wars.
Yes. Work on the brand itself.
Yes.
You mentioned the Zahn books, the Heir to the Empire
Mhm.
trilogy. Was that something did you hunt that down in the bookstores when it first came out? What was kind of your journey to discovering those?
That's a good question. How did I? I don't think I did. I remember I read them when we went on this camping, like extended 10-day camping trip, and I remember reading the
Oh,
books. Yeah, like while we were there because we had so much time to just kind of hang around. But I don't remember seeking them out. It might have just been a happy discovery when we were shopping
yeah.
for the trip. But yeah, I really was surprised to see them, I remember. And I enjoyed them a lot. It was a fun journey to go through those first three books. But yeah, I don't think I had any anticipation, or because I don't think I followed. There was no way really to follow any sort of news back then.
Yeah. No, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
There was newspapers, there were like fanzines,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like today where you can go, I wonder what new Star Wars news there is. Google alerts, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no idea how I would have found out. So I think I probably just came across it in the store.
Did you enjoy them? And has your opinion of them changed at all since Thrawn has become such a major character in the Star Wars universe?
So I'm not a big EU reader. How far did I get? So after Thrawn, I remember I read, the Courtship of Princess Leia and all the ones
Yes.
that follow. That one, I remember I liked that one. But before long, they felt a little. And this is maybe the most controversial thing about me as a Star Wars fan, but the books were they were just so disconnected from each other. Like it didn't feel
Hmm.
like one Star Wars universe that I could really get into. So I kind of drifted away from the books. I don't remember the last time I read the trilogy. I probably should go back and read them. But I have like good memories of reading those first three books. So
That's you bring up an interesting point about it, especially the Legend series, feeling possibly a little disconnected. I totally understand that. Do you feel like it's more connected today during what do they call Disney canon? The current
yeah,
canon?
I do. I feel like there's maybe not there's obviously not like one grand plan for everything, but there is definitely those connections. I think they make a huge effort to connect things where they can.
Mhm.
It feels more like the same universe, which I never really got that feeling in the older Legends books. So
Yeah.
yeah, so they do feel a little more connected, just not maybe not planned out.
Yeah, it's there are elements that act as the glue that then
Yes,
not necessarily a through line from A to B to C to D through multiple stories.
right.
You went camping, you experienced the Zon books. You've got your headset on, you're listening to the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack. I'm sorry, I just put that on you. It could have been Star Wars, could have been Return of the Jedi. I just
It
think
was probably one
Empire.
of the three. It's fine.
One of the three. And you're dreaming of the prequels. When you first saw the prequels, what was your reaction?
So I remember I was in college. It was finals. I had a final the same day that Phantom Menace came out. So my friends kept my place in line while I took my final, which was like the most distracted I ever was, right? I was trying to write as fast
Yeah.
as I could so I could get to the theater. But I really liked the Phantom Menace. It was what nobody knew what to expect. And I don't think anybody could have expected what we got, but I liked it. I still love the Phantom Menace. It's probably my third favorite Star Wars movie. I saw it again the next morning at 10 a.m. So I
What
had a really good experience with Phantom Menace, I felt like.
what are some of the aspects of Phantom Menace that really got you excited about it?
I really liked Qui-Gon and how he was kind of the Jedi that we always had wanted to see, the one that kind of was like the picture that Obi-Wan paints in Star Wars of the, defenders of peace and justice in the galaxy. I felt like that was Qui-Gon. You didn't quite get that
Yeah.
feeling from the council as much as him in particular. And then of course we find out
Yep.
he's a little bit of a rebel himself later on. But yeah, I really liked the world building of that earlier time period. Of course, the lightsaber fight was just, my mouth was
Yeah.
probably open the whole time. The pod racing was amazing with the sound. And then there's so much, of course, that I don't think they still get enough credit for that was innovative with
Yeah.
digital filmmaking and the way they invented so many ways to make the shots that George wanted happen. So yeah, I think it's still not quite as it doesn't quite get the recognition it deserves, I feel like, but it's getting there. Phantom Menace is.
Now, did you go with a big group of friends from college? Was it a intimate
Yes.
group?
No, I think it was a big group. It's funny,
Yeah.
all I remember is the movie, actually. I was focused.
When you're in that movie, see, you remember everything.
Yes.
After that, it's like, I'm out.
There were people, I'm sure.
What did you really enjoyed the Phantom Menace? What did you think of Attack of the Clones and then Revenge of the Sith.
So I remember my hype was not quite as high. I enjoyed both of them. Trying to remember. I saw Revenge of the Sith when I was working an E3, so I remember being very tired that evening, which may have diminished the experience a little bit for me. But it was those two did not make it on my rotation, I would say, as much as Phantom Menace, but it was still overall a good experience, and I enjoy watching those now.
Do you feel like you're much more into Star Wars in the current day more than you were in the past?
For me, it's more of the difference that it's, how to say this, it's not so weird for me to talk about it or show it as it was then. Going back to the question of the show, what does Star Wars mean to you? When I was a kid, it was a very personal, singular. I mean, I have my sister and I both watched it, but it was still a very personal solo experience for me because, I
had a
friend,
Han Solo experience?
Han Solo experience.
Sorry.
It's okay. I heard it when I said it. Because when I was growing up, girls weren't supposed to like Star Wars. I got made fun of by my friends. And so I learned to not talk about it, to not get anybody to theorize with or, any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a very personal experience. And then the older I've gotten, as Star Wars has grown, that's obviously not the case anymore. And so I don't think my appreciation for it has changed. I just think the way I've been able to show it has changed. Because I used to have a really hard time even talking about what I liked about Star Wars because I was so afraid I'd get made fun of, and now it's not like that, which is just lovely, and I'm happy for women and girls now who can say they like it and it not be a weird thing.
I think one of the things that kind of opened my eyes to the need of that was seeing when Force Awakens came out, seeing a young girl like 8 to 12 years old cosplaying as Rey, and it made me say to myself, this is the reason why we need inclusion, because in representation, because it allows people who find identification within films and feel as though they're represented there. And just like you went through, instead of hiding in the back seat with a blanket over your head, listening to the soundtrack, someone can sing it out loud, just walking down the street and be proud to do that. And I think that's really a wonderful of acceptance within fandom that I hope is out there.
Right. I personally feel it. I hope, like you said, I hope other people do too.
Yeah. And then that's a little bit of what I'm trying to do here, is to find out how people identify with Star Wars in order for me to understand their kind of point of view on the world. And also their point of view on Star Wars. And also I have a lot of questions about Star Wars that I can't answer by myself. So I like to ask people.
Yeah.
Do you have a memory of when that shift happened? Was there any kind of one event or a series of things where you're like, oh no, I can Imperial March at the top of my lungs if I want to?
So I know growing up, I didn't have a lot of kids had like Star Wars bed sheets and curtains and all that. I had nothing at all of that because I don't want to say stigma because it's not that horrible, but it's social stigma until college, which I don't want to say when that was, but it was leading up. It was actually, I guess I can say because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It was when the special editions were coming out right around then. The Star Wars hype started again because we knew the prequels were coming. And so I remember in college, I finally hung up my first Star Wars poster on the wall, and I was nervous about it in my dorm room. And I was nervous about it, but it was okay.
Awesome.
So I think it was maybe about the time that, I think there's a joke that period in between Jedi and the special editions was the dark,
yes, the dark times.
And so I think during that, maybe that ending, I think that's maybe when that shift started to happen, because we were all then back in the theaters, and I remember seeing the special editions, and it was just everybody going crazy, men and women and boys and girls. And I think maybe that's when it started.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where it kind of comes back, and seeing everyone excited about it probably just allowed you to feel that freedom.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be right about the same time. So never thought of that. That's great.
If you were to introduce a new person to Star Wars, like someone who's never seen anything, how would you do it?
This actually came up recently online, and I think I would stand by this. I had said for kids, but I think for anybody. I think, and
Yeah.
it's a weird answer, but I think Solo, a Star Wars story, is a really good way to introduce. I said kids because my daughter loved it so much, but I think maybe just anyone to Star Wars because it's got familiar characters with Han, Chewie, and Lando. It's one movie. It's easy
Mm-hmm.
to follow because I did try Phantom Menace with my daughter, which she loved Jar Jar and all that stuff, but I don't know if she really knew what was going on because the
Yeah.
opening crawl is like, negotiations with the Trade Federation and then
Yeah.
blockades and shit. Like, I don't know, I'm 6. And I was like, it's okay. But Solo is so straightforward.
Yes.
So I think Solo by itself is a great introduction because you get all the aliens, you get the Falcon, you get Han and
Yeah.
Chewie. I think you don't get the Jedi though, so your mileage can vary there. But she saw Solo in the theater when it came out, and she really liked it. And then I haven't had any luck since then getting her into Star Wars because it's mom's thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a very robust Twitter feed, and it's
Sorry.
very. No, 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 that's not an insult. It's not an insult. What I mean by that is I don't mean that you're like constantly tweeting. I mean, each of your tweets are interesting. I always feel like you have something to say. And one of the things about Star Wars that is notorious is its fandom. And we touched upon it a little bit. I was talking to Kier Manda, who is a Star Wars influencer online. And she was in an article about fan positivity of Star Wars and toxic positivity.
Mhm.
So I was curious, what is your view of what it means to be a Star Wars fan?
Mm. Um, I mean, my view on it's very simple. If you like anything Star Wars, you're a Star Wars fan,
Star Wars
which
fan.
means just
Yeah.
about everybody in the world is a Star Wars fan, right? So yeah, like my definition of that is so loose. And I know that a lot of fandom have opinions about things, but I think it all comes from a place of passion. Again, going back just because the one thing anybody who likes Star Wars deep down just loves the story. And
Yeah.
so, and I think even the more negative things all come from, I don't know, maybe it's being naive, but deep down there is still that fandom, being a fan of a part of Star Wars. And so, yeah, it's that simple for me. If you like Star Wars, you're a fan.
Yeah. Have you grown a Star Wars community online? Like, have you created lifelong friendships? Lifelong is probably too much of a word, but have you created close friendships with your online community?
Um, so that's an interesting question because I professionally worked on a Star Wars community with Star
Hmm.
Wars Galaxies. And I do kind of keep in touch with some of the players from then still, which is fun. As for me personally, I mean, I do feel like I've made a lot of friends. When I went to Celebration, like I felt welcome and I felt like if I needed something, somebody would be able. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I traveled alone and I was like, I don't
Oh
feel
yeah.
like I'm alone because if I need something, I know I have friends here. And
Yes.
so I feel like I'm very lucky in that I have that both on the personal side with my friends, like from Twitter and online, and then also professional side with the people I work with at Lucasfilm. And so I do feel like I'm part of a community, but I don't know if I would say it's something I've done purposely like I did before professionally, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. How did you start writing books like Be More Obi-Wan or the Star Wars Conversations? And I'm sure it came from your work on the websites, which grows into doing these books. But can you just take me through that journey a little bit?
Sure, it's a very weird one. So
As all good journeys are.
I guess so, because it is kind of like a winding
Yeah.
road, but it went from so I quit my job on Galaxies to be a stay-at-home mom, and so it was an unexpected twist, but it happened. Long story. And so I started with my daughter when she was very little. We started doing crafts and I started posting them online. I'm trying to do the quick version. That got the attention of
Yeah.
Lucasfilm, and the editor of StarWars.com asked if I wanted to put some crafts on StarWars.com. So that's how I started there. And I said, by the way, I've got experience. I can write other stuff for you. he said, cool. And so that's how I started writing there.
That's
That's the quick version. And then go if you have, it's okay.
no. I just wanted to know what kind of crafts you did, and if you remember which one in particular captured the eye of Lucasfilm.
I know I did. There was a little one of her little handprints we turned into Chewbacca, where like the palm of her hand was like his head, and then her fingers were like his body, and then we drew the little face and things. I remember that one. I loved doing her little handprint paintings. That was like my favorite thing. I can't remember quite what else. I just remember that timing there was similar, because the first thing I did for Star Wars was a handprint painting. And then, yeah, like I said, it just kind of grew. My work for them grew from there. And then I'd had some other professional work at Sony on DC Comics. And so I already had, not that they really knew, but I already had like some of that knowledge there. So from Star Wars, it kind of, anything that I shared kind of went out into the Twitterverse, and it caught the eye of the DC Comics editor and, other editors. And so who you are on Twitter matters, kids. Share your work is my number one advice for anybody who wants to do this. You got to hype yourself up online, because nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
So my network kind of grew. So the quickest answer to your question is, for books, it is as I discovered over the years, it's a don't call us, we'll call you type of situation for IP work, where again, like the StarWars.com, the editor finds you and asks. Almost always there's pitching involved sometimes, but in most cases the editors look for a writer in a certain area. I can't really speak to where they look. I'm sure social media is one of the places, but so they reached out to me for Marvel Monsters first, and then from there I got the opportunities to work on Obi-Wan and Spider-Man and the conversation cards, which is coming out now. So it was a long and winding road, and I can't really give advice for following it other than promoting what you're working on, even if it's your daughter's little handprint. You don't know who's going to see it.
I find the journey so fascinating, because the whole time it feels as though Star Wars was a little bit of your shining star, like your guiding star, because even though you were going down these different pathways and stuff, the one kind of common ground was your interest in Star Wars. And I'm sure, as someone who works on DC Comics and Marvel Comics, you have a vast amount of interest. I know I just kind of boiled down everything that is Kelly Knox into Star Wars is your shining star. That's not my intention. It's just
no, it's accurate.
Right. But there is something to sticking to what you love doing and it paying off.
What you're saying is something I say too, which is easier than it sounds, which is find your niche, like find what you're really passionate about. Hopefully it's, it's so specific that it's your thing. I know that's harder than it is to say, finding that thing is so hard. But I think once you get there, like, embrace it and share it. You don't know what'll happen.
What the conversation cards? I saw a promotional item somewhere. I think maybe on your website.
Celebration. Oh, okay. Celebration had given some away. Yeah.
Okay, so it's out there. And when I saw them, I'm like, oh, do I need to use this on my show and just pull out questions every once in a while? Because there was one great question. Which Star Wars character would you like to be your best friend? And now I'm going to ask you, Kelly, which Star Wars character would you like to be your best friend?
Chewbacca. I think he's the world's greatest best friend. He will stay by your side and help you. And the world's best friend, co-pilot.
He's very loyal.
So loyal. And just, all around good guy and undercredited.
Yes. Also, you know what? If your car breaks down, he can fix it.
I mean, happily fix it.
Yeah. So I feel like you told me what your favorite Star Wars memory is, but I'm going to ask you again just to make sure that it's the film strip, or if you have another memory that like stands out, like, oh, you know what? This is a great Star Wars memory.
I have had so much good fortune to have Star Wars part of my personal and professional life. It's almost too much to choose from. But I think it would have to be the film strip as a personal favorite. memory. I mean, I've been lucky enough to meet, like, I've met Mark Hamill once at like a convention, and like for a 2-second hi and stuff like that. But I think just I think just that first memory. It was just such a moment. I think that one will always stay with me. So yeah, I think that
Yeah.
one.
It's a pretty, I was gonna say shocking, but that's not.
Maybe when you're
I think the
6,
abruptness
5 or
of
6.
it.
Yeah. And the yelling, like it was the audience reacted so loudly. I remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
What is some of your favorite Star Wars content that's out there right now?
Jedi Survivor, I think I said earlier, that's really taken up a lot of my time recently. I really love it. I don't know if you can see him, but I
Yeah,
have BD1
BD1.
behind one. I love him. Maybe that's my second choice for best friend.
Yeah,
Cute.
they did a great job with his personality.
They
And his
really
movements.
did. His little feet, the way he kicks his feet up sometimes and stuff. Yeah, he's great. So yeah, I just finished up with that.
I haven't played. I'm sorry, I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, but I played the first one.
Yes, Fallen Order.
Outcast.
Fallen Order. You're thinking Jedi Academy.
Oh, Fallen Order. Yes, that's it. Yes, Fallen Order.
They're good. They're really good games.
I've only completed maybe 3 or 4 video games in my life, 2 of which are Star Wars.
Yeah.
Fallen Order and Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic's great. But yeah, the reason I liked Survivor so much is they did a really good job of the other thing I'm enjoying currently, which is the High Republic tie-ins. They did a really good job of bringing the eras together. I felt like it made it feel like part of the Star Wars universe in a really fun way. So
yes,
those 2 things are currently where I'm at.
So are you excited that they announced the movie that takes I guess that's not High Republic era. It's like 25,000 years prior to the Jedi, or prior to the Battle of Yavin. Acolyte, that I think takes place at the end of the High Republic era.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because there's so many eras and titles right now. It's hard for me to keep them all.
It's the opposite of the dark times.
Is it? It's the opposite of the dark times. That's exactly right. Do you think there might be too much Star Wars out there right now?
Not for me personally. Maybe for people trying to get into Star Wars. The nice thing is there's the easy entry of the original 3, but I don't think there's too much. But I can see where maybe for somebody who's trying to get into it, it can be daunting.
Yes, I like, even as a hardcore fan, I can be like, oh, there's just too many books right now.
Yes, I always think of and I did for the conversation card, just thinking of my dad. Like, how would my dad look at Star Wars right now? Well, he kind of knows about Mandalorian. There's no way he knows about High Republic. So when I was writing the cards, he was kind of like my baseline for how to word the questions, because there's so much I didn't want it to feel like you couldn't ask or answer the question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it needs to start a conversation as opposed to end one.
Right.
And that must have been tough, because I can see the want to be like, if BD1 was your best friend, how would you spend the day with him? And someone like, BD what? Yes.
So along with the cards, there is a booklet that explains the question, and then I give some possible answers, because I don't want anybody to feel like they can't participate, right? So you can flip to the booklet, and it'll either jog your memory or give you an answer like, oh yeah, this guy would be great, And so I tried so hard to balance that so that nobody felt left out. So
that's amazing.
hopefully that will work out. So for people who have not seen it all.
When they come out, I need to get
August
them.
1st.
August 1st. I thought I had seen something that it was near the end of the summer. I have to get some and just do an episode where I just ask people these questions, because I think it's a pretty fun concept. What are 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
That's a great question. There's always hope. It's in the title, New Hope. Leia says it. I think no matter how horrible things get, there's always hope. So I think that's number 1. I'm gonna start going on a tangent, but even Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One are very hopeful movies at the end, even though everything's terrible.
Yes.
What else does Star Wars have? Star Wars always has. This is a good question. There's always somebody that you're going to root for. Sometimes it's a bad guy. It could be Darth Vader sometimes.
Like in
But
the
there's
hallway of Rogue One.
yeah, you're like, oh no. And I want to say there's something about the world building, but I could never really the way I think George Lucas always described it was it's a very lived in galaxy, and I feel like maybe the stories and
Yes.
the universe and everything does always feel so lived in, and so I think there's that to it too. Even in the prequels, I still felt like things were a lot cleaner and different, Art Deco looking, but it still felt like a very lived in, familiar galaxy, and I think that's another important part for any Star Wars story.
What would you like to see in the future of Star Wars?
There's always the question asked once in a while, like, what story would you like to see adapted? I always want to see Obi-Wan and Satine together on Mandalore. There's like a quick reference to it in the Clone Wars where they spent a year on Mandalore together with Qui-Gon, and I've always kind of wanted to see that coming of age kind of love story with Qui-Gon being like, I see what's happening. So I've always wanted to see that. I hope if they ever get a chance to put it in a comic or a book or something, I would absolutely love to see that. Otherwise, I'm pretty excited for where it's going, which is, High Republic is going strong, and, these Mandalorian era series, like all of it, I'm really excited to see. So it's all kind of looking backward. I don't think I'm not looking past the sequels yet until we hear more about that movie coming up, but I like looking at the in between. Like those are right now my favorite stories are the what happens in between, because it makes the original trilogy feel different when you see Obi-Wan take that pause before what happened to my father and all that stuff. Like it makes all those little moments that you never really noticed before like mean more, and so that's why I always enjoy the in between stories. So hopefully more of those.
Yeah, it's really impressive how they can take kind of one moment or one scene and kind of infinitely zoom in on it so that it constantly kind of changes meaning as kind of the story progresses through time. Meaning, as we hear more of the story, we're like, oh, wait, maybe Yoda wasn't the wisest of the Jedi. Maybe he was fallible because of the prequels made the Jedi Council seem kind of not
awesome.
Not awesome. Yeah, not awesome. And now my final question to you, which is maybe always a little hard for people who work on the brand, because it's hard to ask because, there's a good chance that this has happened. But you go to Skywalker Ranch and there at the gates, George Lucas greets you. What do you say to him?
Oh, gosh. That's probably one of those, even just starting at Skywalker Ranch, I'd probably already be crying, right? So it's like, let's picture you're there and you're sobbing. What are you going to, first I apologize for sobbing, and then I say thank you. I don't know what I could say past thank you that could even begin to capture how I feel about it. I think I would just tell him thank you for your stories, because I think we've talked a few times about that's where this all comes from, is a good story, and that's what he just wanted to tell a story with a happy ending, and I think he did a good job, and he gave everybody that satisfaction that it's kind of a need. I think we all need stories with happy endings, and that's why we all love Star Wars so much. So I would just tell him thank you, and then cry some more. He'd be like, "Oh, good." I go.
That's a great answer. I love that answer of that it's a story with a happy ending, and that's true because it is. Where can people find you, Kelly?
You can find me on Twitter way too much at Kelly_Knox. All the places we talked about where I'm currently writing, DC Comics, Crunchyroll if you like anime, just another random tangent. Yeah. And then
it's really impressive that swath of kind of like geek knowledge you have to be able to straddle very different worlds, because I like to be able to write with brands like Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Crunchyroll, you have to know about the world, about the fandom, about what people would be interested in. It is a lot of stuff because I am primarily like, I'm Star Wars and then Marvel, maybe DC, and a really incredible knowledge base you must have to cover all these things.
Yeah, I mean, keeping up with it's maybe the most difficult part, but I always joke that, I've been training my whole life for this. I read comics as a kid, Star Wars as a kid, so just start early.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeping up with it's the hard part. But I'm lucky enough to be able to work on the things that I enjoy myself. So, and that some of them are, coming together, like Star Wars and anime, and Star Wars and
Yes.
Marvel a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a pretty nice intersection of pop culture that I get to work in.
Well, we'll look for your conversation cards. What is the name of Star Wars conversation cards?
I think just Star Wars conversation cards from Inside Editions, and that's out August 1st. And then Be More Obi-Wan's already out from DK Publishing, and Be More Spider-Man just came out in the spring. So I think that's my stuff for this year. Hopefully announcing more stuff soon.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if there was anything more you can announce on that, but all this information will also be in links, will be in the podcast notes. Kelly, again, thank you so much for your puns. I really did enjoy them.
Thank you.
And your jokes. I enjoy the Twitter feed, and I'm in the middle of reading Obi-Wan right now.
Oh, great. I hope you like it.
And I look forward to Spider-Man because Spider-Man's probably my favorite character, even above Star Wars. I don't know. I don't know if I can rank those two things, but Spider-Man's definitely like one of my totems.
Yeah, the one that I wrote was the MCU Peter Parker in particular, but I love how they wrote his character, and so I was happy to work on that one.
Kelly, again, thank you so much for sharing what does Star Wars mean to you, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks again for inviting me.
So that's what Star Wars means to Kelly Knox. Did you use the soundtracks as a way to relive the movies? Do you like creating amazing Star Wars crafts? Did you play and fall in love with Jedi Survivor? Let us know and get in on the conversation on Twitter or Instagram at Star Wars Mean to You. That's at Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. Next week, I welcome Michael Berretti, the content creator who made the YouTube sensation What If the Prequels Were Good? We have a great conversation about the prequels and what was actually really good about them. And of course, more Star Wars. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. If you're liking the show, please give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to us. And remember, the Force will be with you, always. Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.